Part 4 of What the Hell Happened. And I promised you guys all kinds of stuff relating to cults and other issues, and we're starting to mix it in more and more. In part 3, I talked about my older teen years, figuring out my career, what I wanted to do, what I was interested in. Didn't like the idea of college and moved out of state 6 hours away from where my parents and family was, and started working for a construction company. So I moved out, pretty much was just the guy that carries 2x4s. That was it. And I needed to build muscle mass. I was literally scrawny as could be. I could not swing a hammer and hit a nail. Like, I think my employer was frustrated with me, but he stuck with me anyway. And the entire crew is Mennonite. I was Mennonite where I moved for the last 2 years before I moved. And so, of course, I go to church every Sunday. And so I'm working on this crew. It's going fine. I start going to church. First month or so, everything was really weird. Like, to me, it was really weird. Um, Everybody kind of wore the same thing, and then they talked about how they weren't like those other crazy conservative Mennonite groups where, like, they had to wear the black hat all the time and all this, stuff. They could wear any, I guess they could wear. I don't even know. I don't know if they could wear any style shirt. I didn't really become familiar with it. I was joined the Mennonite church at the old church. I never joined this one. It was very important that you button the top button. You could only wear shirts with buttons. T-shirts were not okay ever at any point in life. I mean, maybe if you went to bed in a T-shirt, that was okay. But button-up shirts. The entire crew wore long pants and button-up shirts. I did not wear the button-up shirts. I refused. I wore T-shirts. I wore long pants because whatever, I didn't care. I didn't like my legs getting all scraped up with stuff anyway. Um, so as it starts going on, I just start kind of questioning. I'm 18 years old. I'm just questioning everything. I'm wondering why do they do the button-up shirts? Where's that in the Bible? Why are they, why is all this stuff? And then they're just all about unity and agreement, and the brotherhood agrees, and you know, uniformity is not unity, but they just kind of interchange those words. So I would challenge them on stuff, well, I mean, you absolutely have, the women have to wear that head covering, and it must be this style. And I think it was something about strings. You had to have the strings on the bonnets because you lose the strings, and you're going to lose the whole bonnet, head covering, whatever. And I was like, okay, whatever. But I kind of, I was 18 years old. I was kind of arrogant. I was kind of, just questioning stuff. And I probably came off not very, I probably came off critical. I totally came off critical. I'm like, why doesn't your wife wear the head covering when she sleeps? Why doesn't she wear it in the shower? If it's a sin not to wear it, you should be wearing it all the time. Um, and so just back and forth. And I was an introvert. I was not much of a person to really want to socialize at all. When we got done with the work day, I went home to the basement, closed the door in the little bedroom thing, and just was on my computer. Didn't even always have internet access. It was just a dial up modem thing. I don't think I did have internet access for a long time. I just played my, whatever, played my games, single player games, called it a day. Um, I would eat once a day with the family, and because of all my questioning and just criticism of the types of things they did as Mennonites, the entire crew kind of learned not to like me. The one stopped talking to me. Like, early on, he just didn't like me, and it took me a while to figure that out. But he just wouldn't talk to me. He didn't want anything to do with me. Um, and they all went to the same church. And so it just became this thing, and I wouldn't button my top button when I went to church, and everybody noticed. And then some people stopped shaking hands with me and stopped doing the whole holy kiss thing where you kiss each other's cheek twice. Um, and that's fine. That's just totally weird. Anyway, it was just what I was used to. Um, where am I going? Anyway, at some point, I decided I was done with this whole group of Mennonites and didn't want anything to do with it. And so I stopped going to church and I just stayed home. And then they would question me all the time, why are you going to church? Why are you going to church? And so I was like, fine, I'm going to church. And then I pretty much just lied about going to church and said I'd go out and move my car while they were at church in a different position, so it looked like I came back. And they'd be like, what church did you go to? And they kind of tried to incorporate me into their family, but I totally felt like a project, like I was a lost individual that needed mentoring and guidance, and I was their project. I wasn't a human being. I was just their project. And I just played video games. Anyway, at work, things just kept getting worse. We just kept going back and forth, and it just went into the work. Like, I didn't do this right, I didn't do that right, hurry up, work faster, and it just became a hostile work environment. And I was the outsider, and all of them pretty much banded together, and they're just critical. It was nasty. And if you watch the earlier parts, how I treated my brother, they kind of all treated me like that. So it was a taste of my own medicine, and yeah, I guess I deserved it. Anyway, as time goes on, I'm just kind of like, it's just, I've not been to church. This whole thing of, these people represent God and they treat me like crap. And I got the idea that God absolutely hated me because these people, in my perception, were of God. And since they hated me, God must hate me. And I was done with religion. I was like, that's it. I started reading stuff about Calvinism. And in a nutshell, basically, if you're going to be saved, you're going to be saved. Once saved, always saved. Like, you're chosen or you're not. And I became a Calvinist and decided specifically that I was not chosen for salvation, and no matter what I did, I was destined to be an evil, horrible person and was going to hell. And I stuck with that, and I came out with it, and I just told him, like, this is what it is. Like, obviously I'm not a Christian, totally renounced my faith, was done with it. And the boss pretty much, at the time, still making $8 an hour, maybe $8.25, I don't know. Hardly ever making any ends meet, and my boss pretty much told me, you're now ineligible for any promotions ever. So I'm pretty much stuck there. I was probably 4 years into it, 22 years old. Whatever. I was done with religion, totally rebelled against it, wanted nothing to do with it, essentially became an atheist. I don't know if that's, I'm literally was like a reverse Calvinist, where I was convinced that God did not love me and hated me, and I was just not chosen to be one of his, so I was chosen to be one of the others. And I had no choice. So that's where that went. In the meantime, I started dating a girl. Okay, got ahead of myself. Pretty sure I was married when I decided that. So I'm going to have to back way up a second. At some point with all my computer gaming, I got into the internet stuff, had internet access, had I think it was like a Zanga page. It was like MySpace, but not that popular, and it was social media. Made a page, posted about whatever, and ended up meeting a girl through the website. She lived significantly north of me, about 6 hours. We chatted back and forth, had absolutely no intentions of anything other than it was just a friend. I'm an introvert, and I'm not going out and meeting people. I'm not going out and doing any activities. I'm just not. Like, I'm happy by myself, just with a computer. And end up texting back and forth. We did phone calls back and forth. I had no romantic interest, no idea if she did or not either. And I went out there and started to visit like once a month, and she was still living with her parents. She was not in a relationship. We just went to hang out. I don't really totally remember how it all happened, to be honest. Anyway, I ended up marrying this person, and her name is going to be, for the sake of this series, Delilah. And I'm just about at that 10-minute mark, so I am going to get into the whole relationship between Delilah and I in the next part.